By the way, I never got to make my point. I just thought of basically the measuring the size of Venus, you know, to get the distance to the sun and all that thing. That concept is based on literally a double down presupposition that Venus is the same size.
Yeah, we know.
That's so. It's just so crazy.
Yeah,
So
if
it's
only
just
the
a trick.
audience would also recognise that detail, Arwen. If only.
Right.
They'll just fight against
Are,
it, ignore
then,
it.
oh yeah, and Venus is the same size.
Yeah.
And then you get everything. Deduction.
So, really quick, George Nathan Oakley, he said he's gonna set up an account, try to join in the second show because he was kicked. He said he was yelling and he couldn't be heard. And then Alan B say he might join in another account because he really want to present this video. So it's up to you guys.
What they want. Both welcome. Alan got kicked for swearing, but it's the next show, so he's welcome to rejoin. George just didn't have his
He got
audio
kicked for
settings.
swearing.
Yeah.
Nah,
got
he was
annoyed that
just
we were
being a
pointing out
shitty
that he
troll.
basically fell hook, line, and sinker into that guy's assertion, which was to say that all they ever present is pictures from the sky that are 8K. And then he's like, here's 4, well, he said 4K, but either way, here's 4K footage. So you click on it, and immediately it's from the sky, exactly as the guy said.
Yeah, I saw him do that. And he wasn't listening because someone was speaking over you. We couldn't hear what you were saying.
I still want to know. I still want to know what a soft tap is.
Soft what?
Alan called Nathan a soft tap.
No idea. Never heard of it. Sounds very 50s or something. Probably an old American word or British, old British. Alan likes to use old words. Are you sure he didn't just say a soft tag? As in tag you're it? Like a soft mark?
No, he was calling him a name.
Right, I'm going to go get a coffee. It will actually be a 10-minute break.
Right.
I'm going to put the chat up for the recording to read. You're not going to be chit-chatting. So for those of you watching this on the backup channel, this is how exciting it really gets.
All right. Hey, Riley, by the way, I had a question for you. Who sent you that email? Because that was from the...
Speak up a little bit.
Who sent you that email with that quote from that one chat you're not in?
You sent me the email with the quote of what, Arwen?
How did you get your inside information?
I was reading it. I'm researching it, Anna, for the paper.
I only posted that in one single chat. So who sent you that email?
What email? What are you on about?
You said somebody sent you an email and then you quoted it yesterday live.
What was I referring to when you're on about this email? You're on about
something I said when I was talking about you to other people.
It was in a.
Oh,
it was
somebody
in a
sent me the email. Oh yeah, when you were calling me something intellectually dishonest or something like that.
Indeed.
Well, that would be reveal a source. I'm not prepared to reveal a source. Sorry.
Aren't you in the Master B chat, Riley?
No.
Right. Okay.
Oh, okay.
No, yes, Jose, yes, he is, but that's not what we're talking about. It's a separate group that Arwen started.
I'm not in it. I left ages ago.
You never were in it. I didn't invite you. Not
The
talking
Master
about
Beef
the
chat?
Master B chat. I
Yeah,
didn't post that in the Master Beach yet.
we're getting crossed over with what we're talking about.
I used to be in the Master Beast chat. I left.
Hold on, let me check it. Oh God, now I have to get past John and Nora's rambling. Jesus Christ, never shut up. Oh wait, yeah. Oh damn it. Yeah, I did. Okay, no problem. I did post in Master Beach, so yeah, that's never mind. I posted something similar in the other one, but I also posted something right there. Right, okay, no problem.
So who it was? It could be anybody.
Yeah, well, maybe just Nathan or Ranty or something. I don't care. I get it.
Could be anybody, Arwin. You won't find out.
I know, I know. Ah, damn it. Yeah, no problem.
Surprising
So,
you can't
Riley.
say it to my face, though, what your real views are, Arwin.
No, they're not.
Riley, did you catch Timmy Osman yesterday?
No, I don't watch Tim Osman.
Yeah, you should watch it. He was revisiting, he was analyzing the debate show from yesterday.
Was he?
When
Don't
I
really
asked
care
the
what he thinks.
question, when I asked the question about if the two observers are looking south to the rotation point and blah blah blah, he was addressing that point.
I don't really care what Tim thinks. He's got girly ankles.
How's the weather there? Guys? Anyone there?
You talk to me?
Anyone? Yeah, how's the weather there? Ah, damn it.
You're very quiet, Arwin. I'm struggling to hear what you're saying.
How is the weather there?
Raining.
Huh. Right. It's nice and sunny over here, but there are a lot of chemtrails going around.
I went yesterday to the train track that is close to home to record a little bit, and I start recording, and then it says the SD card was corrupted, bro. I couldn't. I tried formatting it, and it didn't record anything. Like fuck. Anyway, it was a lot of distortion. It was really hot, so I was getting that mirroring, but it looked cool because in the third distance, there's a street crossing, and you can see the cars like hovering in the air, across the train track, and I couldn't see too far in the train track. So I know another day when it's cooler, I can get nice little footage there.
Yep. And the hotter it gets, the closer the optical slant starts.
Yeah, I wanted it to record. I wanted to upload it. So like, damn it, but I had to come back home. So in the next couple of days, I'll go back.
Oh well. There are, what is it? 365 days in a year, wasn't it?
Yeah,
So,
and a quarter.
plenty of chances. Yeah, oh man, this morning the moon was like coming up like right before dawn, and it was just a bizarre sight. It was really sharp, and I could see like the black side of it through the dark but not perfectly black sky. Just such a sight. Also,
Do
I
you see
think
the out shape, the line in the out shape around?
you can see the content of the blackened content. Basically, you can just see it contrast. I don't know. It's very weird. But I see that more. I see it with my eyes. So my eyes are better than this webcam that I have. Anyway. But also, I've been noticing that just that moon, every time the sun and the moon are in the same spot, the angle is off so badly. It's like between 45 and 66 degrees. It's just turned. It's like, no, it's not facing the right way. It's so weird to see. Anybody else noticing?
You try to put like a ping pong ball or baseball or something up and see if the illumination, matches.
Yeah. You're talking about the black side of the moon, right?
Yeah, no, when the sun and the moon are up and you're seeing the illumination in the side of the moon that is illuminated, and if you put a tennis ball, let's say up, you should get the same illumination when the moon is in front of you, side by side.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, that's a good one.
I mean, I've seen people doing it. I actually haven't done it. I just proposing it, but I'm gonna do that. See if it adds up.
Yeah, but I can just see it because I'm just looking. Here's the sun on one side. I trace a line directly to the moon, and then that's not the angle. It's just very obvious. I just see it very clearly.
Yeah, get ready for George. He might join. I really want this to be some kind of a more formatted debate. So I know he's gonna make claims, and you guys gonna want to interrupt him. But if he wanna, let's say, tackle with Anthony or Arwin specifically, let's try to give you guys a little room and not interrupt too much and see if a point can be made.
I have nothing really to add. So
see if a point can be made completely. If you're gonna urge to interrupt, but if you want to propose, let him get the sentence out. I'm talking to like Riley himself. If he's arguing with you, let him say the sentence, and then if he interrupts, then you tell him like, hey, I let you speak. Let me speak, and see if we can get nice little format going.
But I only really interrupt people when they're actually talking about something interesting and they want to add to it. So George always is doing the same shit over and over again. There's nothing really I can add to that. Just keeps on.
And I know Nathan is gonna itch. Nathan is gonna itch to interrupt too, but I mean we cannot avoid it. It is what it is. But if a little more control is held back from us a little bit, more people are gonna want to join. It's gonna be more fun, in the long run.
Yeah, but that's not. It's not gonna happen. I don't see that.
Yeah. So I'm trying here.
That's just how the show works, and I already been pondering on basically competing with my own type of similar show with different settings.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you have not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you'd like to support this channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal link in the info box below the video. Most importantly though, if you would like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link below this video to join the panel and express your views on the shape of the Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcomed back on the next stream. Please also share the show. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel. So please share the show. And one last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now we are joined by Jose, The Plain Truth, we've got Earth Flattener, and Arwin. Good to have you all. Sleeping Warrior as well, my bad.
That was very vigorous there, Nathan. You seemed very enthusiastic.
Very what, sorry?
Enthusiastic, very vigorous.
I'm excited. The Flat Earth Debate.
Coffee.
Nathan Debate, baby.
Nathan's casa is your casa, guys. Join the show. Click the link and join the show.
It's the
What's there not
daily
to be
dose of
excited
flat
about?
Earth
We've all
debate.
been deceived on a massive level. The Earth is actually flat. Who wouldn't be excited about that?
Don't join the panel unless you've got some evidence for assertions that's bound to dribble out your mouth.
Well, speaking of assertions,
hello, George.
we only got a third of the way through the housekeeping on the last show, so I'm determined to get through all the way this time. So, any signs of Earth curve? Let's get that one out of the way straight away.
No.
No.
About axial rotation?
No.
Of the Earth-based variety?
Well, if you're to assert that the stars are antipodal to each other, then that's only possible if you're on a sphere-shaped Earth, Arwin. So, any description.
I disagree.
You think you can have antipodal stars, so stars that are underneath you, without going underneath yourself to see them?
Well, if they are only virtually there, then yes. Or virtually, holographically. If there are in a specific
there?
angular relation to your observation, yeah, the ground's going to be in between. But if it were not, then possibly you might
Where's
see
there?
it.
Where am I going to view them?
Well, that's the funny thing about it. If you go up, we are discovering, or we are assuming currently, that stars potentially go away, so that's not going to work. So yeah, you'd have to like blow up the entire Earth, so it's no longer there, and then somehow drift. Let's not do that. Let's not try that.
That was literally the worst pile of word salad ever. Where's there? Where are we going to view these stars?
Underneath us? Well, currently there's no such place. Let's just put it like that.
Greenland,
So we have to go underneath. So I have to go underneath myself.
Chile.
Well, you'd have to maybe dig a massive, several 100-mile hole somewhere, and then try to stay at sea level. Make sure the sea doesn't leak into it. And then, yeah, if you just build a little tower there in that giant crater and sit in the middle of it, you might potentially see stars when you look
That's
Oh,
down.
bullshit.
This
I
is
cannot even.
nonsense.
I
put
know
that in
it's
my mind.
bullshit, but
This is nonsense. I
that's
can
the
just
only
travel
way
over
to
there and
test
see
it.
them. I look up here and see stars. I travel over there being, let's just put the camera on, over there being over there, not over there. So I'm going over there to see these stars, and what I'm seeing is above me in every instance.
Indeed, that's where we perceive them. But they are, the globe of the heavens, at least you have to admit, is a hemisphere.
Do I?
It's a hemisphere.
Is
It's like a cup. It's like half
Does
a
it?
globe, and when it moves, the stars move underneath and other pops up from the
I
other
think
side.
the right
And
phrase
that
is appears to be.
But what the only thing you get to see is the hemisphere, basically, of stars, and everything goes over you in that half sphere.
Who said it's a half sphere? Why could it not be flat?
Because of the angular locations and the angular speed.
But you do realise that the claim by the ballers is that for every 69 miles you travel, the stars move by, or North Star moves by 1 degree, right?
Yeah.
Well, wouldn't that mean that we're on a slope?
No, it means that there is a direct relation between the angular location of the holographic demi-globe of the heavens and the location on Earth.
Right.
Yeah,
But
there's
it goes
just
at a
a
rate of
direct
69
linear
miles
relation
and 1
between them.
degree. That means that we're on a slope.
No.
According to their model, it does.
So what? Their model is all based on presuppositions. That's all literal. So does it matter? It's
Well, it matters
holographic.
when you
It's
assert the
not
same
really
thing.
there. It just appears to the observer there.
So just remember, if you hear anybody claiming that the North Star drops by the rate of 1 degree for every 69 miles travel, just ask them, does that mean that we're on a slope? 'Cause it can't do that on a sphere. It starts off very small, very lots of movement immediately, and then it gradually gets less and less and less the closer to the horizon it gets. And that should be measurable, because that would happen on a sphere, only on a sphere.
Yeah, but on a sphere, you would get to see a lot more heaven because you're actually constantly standing on that hill. So the entire horizon would be downwards. You would get to see more of the heavens than just a perfect demisphere. To be fair.
Is this going to happen every time I ask for proof of axial
Yeah,
rotation?
well, now it answers, yeah.
You
I don't
started
mind.
it.
I mean, this is where the con comes in. You've got things in the sky that appear to rotate, and therefore we're on a spinning sphere. That's the conclusion the globeheads have drawn.
Yep.
Is that it?
God
Is it
damn
just the
it.
same assertion then, Arwin?
What?
Is it just the same assertion as their assertion?
I think so.
What? I take no assertions. I deduce no conclusion about the shape of the Earth, about the globe of the heavens, or the demisphere, however you want to see it.
You did. You said you'd
I,
have to
I
dig.
make no such deduction.
Oh,
and
you were being
presupposition.
farcical. No, fair enough. Okay. I think we can...
Hello.
Hi, Jimbo. Right, I'm going to move on, if that's okay. No, I'll ask the same question again. Is there any proof of axial rotation?
You asked that already.
I know, I'm asking again.
All right. Well, not of the Earth-based variety, only of the apparent stars, demi-globe, and of the
But
ether.
we're back at the same point. So to assert they've got an axis, Arwin, this is where you've got to go underneath yourself to view the other side of that
Only an
axis.
apparent axis.
An apparent axis. So apparently the stars that I always see above me are underneath me. This is nonsense.
You line up the apparitions, literally. Yeah, as you see them, and yeah, when you put them together, yeah, then the rotational movement over time will point out a virtual axis within the globe of the heavens.
Can I just point out that when you say yeah, that doesn't actually strengthen your point.
What are you
Let's just
talking
move
about?
on.
I'm just explaining here. That's all.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll accept it. You're not going to say for the Earth-based variety. We'll address it another time. Excuse me.
Lol.
So, what was the next? What are we going to move on to? Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
Well, I'm working on it.
Well, did you not want to represent what you had earlier that you presented regarding a few men looking at something and not being able to figure out what it was?
I haven't done enough research on it yet, but it appears that when they built Jodrell Bank, which is one of England's best telescopes, in the late 50s, early 60s, it appears that they were unsuccessful at getting any ping data from Venus. But then JPL got involved, and somehow magically everybody then had a scientific consensus that they did actually get a ping from Venus. So I haven't quite found how strong or credible this evidence is yet. I'm working on it, but there does appear to be some element of something, but I'm not persuaded by how credible the evidence is, because it seems that once some bloke called Bob from JPL got involved, everybody all of a sudden accepted that it was an indisputable fact. But prior to that, nobody could agree on what they were reading. So I'll need a bit of time before I come back to you on that one, but it's definitely work in progress.
Well, I'm smiling because I've read it along with you, so I just know what you're not disclosing. But it's cool. It's all cool. You want to double check and cross the I's and dot the T's, or the other way around.
Well, you can do the other half if you want.
No. I'm purely reacting to what you have shown me, so I'm not going to take any credit. And yeah, I can smile away because I know what I've read, but had it not been pushed under my nose by you, so no, you absolutely take the lead with this, and it's cool. I like what you've shown me, and it's it makes me smile. It's
interesting.
Slog, though.
It's not going the direction that I actually thought it was going to go in.
Me neither, but it's good. It's still equally good.
It is. It's all good, but the distance to the sun thing, it's not as clear cut as what we're told with regards to this transit of Venus point. Very interesting. Well, it's a lot more interesting than what I actually gave it credit for originally.
It takes you all over the formula until you reach the vague area, and then it's just like, listen to this noise.
No formulas, just people's opinions.
Yep, that's what it ends up with. But I'm just saying, like, first, distance to the sun. Oh, we deduce it from this, and you deduce
there absolutely
that
was a
from
formula.
that. It's all over the formula of presupposition.
There is a formula, Anthony, and as with all amazing discoveries, like the Mini, the discovery of that technology, it was written on the back of a napkin. Correct?
I have no idea.
You got to back me up here, Anthony.
Sorry, I was just speaking in the background. What did you ask?
Oh, jeez, I swept. So, like all great technology, it was scribbled on the back of a napkin, was it not?
Yeah. It was scribbled on the back of a on the back of a napkin, but not only that, and the fact that nobody agreed with what was being seen, they had to do what Sean did, Sean Hufford, where he amplified the hell out of the background to try and get anything. And when Summit was there, it was like everybody was saying there's nothing there. But then some bloke from JPL by the name of Bob, doesn't even give his surname, just says Bob, said, yeah, that's definitely it. And then everybody accepted it. And I'm like, really? It's definitely an interesting story. I haven't found out how credible it is yet, but it's definitely something worth watching. And if you've still got that link, Nathan, post it in chat and let people have a read of it, because it'll take you to all the documents. But it's good. It's good to read.
I'll do it if I remember. Right, let's move on then from distance to the sun. Any evidence of a gas pressure without a container?
No.
Never.
No.
Jimbo?
Right.
Went off mute and
Next.
then went straight back on again. No?
No.
Fair enough. What about any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth? Any evidence?
Absolutely none.
Well, presupposedly, yeah.
No, there's even when you presuppose it, there's still no evidence of it.
Why not?
Because the deepest they've only dug Arwen is 8 miles.
You just need to presuppose it. That's the trick.
Every time. Right, we'll
Yeah.
get straight on to the next then. Any evidence of the presupposition itself then, Arwin? Any evidence of
No.
R? The R value?
Radio Sanctus.
No, the blessing comes next, and the blessing doesn't count as evidence. And I'm not going to have any
No.
glowheads coming on giving me the blessing like that means it's evidence of R. It isn't. Just saying we trust in it doesn't prove it.
Correct.
Come on, any evidence of the presupposition of an R value?
No.
Well, an R
No.
value may be there, but to actually accept
think-
that the Earth is actually
I
that
think
it
we might.
applies to the Earth, that's
You're sharp.
No.
You're sharp, Arwin. I said for instead of didn't I?
yeah.
Any scientific evidence of the R value as opposed to everything.
I actually think we might be back to the point where we have to argue that the best argument that they've got for R itself is soundly. I think that's where we're back to.
What planet
But
Orleans
that's of
Parish?
curvature. That's still not R.
Well, there's a curvature. There's an R value associated with curvature, right?
There's no proof. Just because one part seems to be curved doesn't prove that it's all a ball. Right?
Hello.
Hello, Jimbo. Did your mic not work?
I lost my audio. Sorry about that.
No worries.
Curvature could technically be local. The R folds it all, makes it very consistent. It has to be everywhere. So just because some guy filmed something that looked like curvature to him, yeah, he found a bit of curvature. But yeah, you got to find that curvature everywhere all the time.
Hey,
That's
Zach.
the point.
There's
No.
someone joined who knows something about
Good for Tim, yeah.
representing curvature and slope on our plane. Good times for all joined.
Yeah, he's
I
having
just
audio
wanted
issues.
to. Sorry, I had a note too. One of I guess he's a flat earther. He's producing a very nice 3D for calculating the refraction at the horizon and all this distortion.
There
And
is
it's
no
looking
refraction at the
really-
horizon.
I know. Well, the compression that happens there, that kind of stuff, you know. But anyway, he's doing wonderful work on it's a curve calculator, really, that it's not for curves. It's actually for these aberrations and distortions at the distance. It's really looking nice. I mean, it calculates a whole whack of shit, man.
Yeah, we were lucky enough to have a conversation, admittedly at 5:30 a.m. for Zach. Can you hear us, Zach? Can you say hello? You're on mute at the minute. Let's see if we get audio.
You guys hear me all right?
We do. We
Yeah.
do. So we were chatting with Zach earlier about some strange anomaly in the Skunk Bay footage. I don't know if Anthony's around to actually present this footage. Hopefully so.
Yeah. Right now.
Yeah. Let's get into it. So,
Cool.
All right, give me a minute.
while you're
I'm gonna
doing
break.
that, I'll preface this for the audience. So basically, the Skunk Bay footage has been asserted on many occasions by many different people on both sides of the equation as having an effect of refraction. And following Zachary Zabala's work, and quite a few other people as well, but for me, mostly Zach's, I'll be honest, he's highlighted that we're looking at something else. We're looking at the diffraction limit, which does vary depending on the aperture you're using, but ultimately speaking, we're talking about a limitation of the view based on the angle that you view things at. And in the Skunk Bay footage, you have a rising and falling tide that's filmed, and you have the compression effect, now I will assert, caused by the narrowing of the angle. So as the tide rises, it forces the angle to reduce, therefore causing the diffraction limit to change location, and causing things that are in the mid-foreground to be refracted upon themselves underneath and be miraged. However, this is not an effect of refraction, but actually a demonstration of the diffraction limit. Now, the issue that we were discussing was how does the effect change in a specific instance. Hi, Oblate. And Zach was saying that the atmosphere itself does also change the angle at which you are viewing things. So that hopefully will get a bit more clarity from Zach on once Anthony's got his footage up, which is hopefully nearly done. I've filled in a fair time to get him there. We shall see.
Oh, I'm doing it.
I know, I can see what you're doing. It's all good.
I'm just trying to find
I'm
it.
yabbering away.
Actually, Nathan, I believe it's not anything to do with diffraction.
It's not anything to do with diffraction.
No, that looked like a superior mirage, if that's what Anthony was talking about, how the boat was inverted upside down.
Yeah, but it was the interaction with the background that I was asking you about with the boat, not just the Fata Morgana.
Oh, okay.
So,
I'll show it now.
Yeah, let's see it.
But yeah, running the full length of the actual the land in the middle, and I'm going to highlight it for the audience you don't get to see. That I would assert is the angular limitation for that part of the frame, and then the only things that are going to be seen above that are things that are higher than that, like the mountain in the background.
Is that
playing,
my cue?
Anthony?
Nath, is that
Yeah,
my
is it
cue?
playing?
Right, so basically what we're seeing is this this has been slowed down to just 4% of Skunk Bay footage. And we can see that there's a boat going left to right. That's boat 1. And then we have boat 2 that's coming in left to right. And basically, as they get to halfway, you can see that it's really been slowed down. You'll observe this boat coming in from the right that's going left. And when he goes to the left, you can see that there's this mirroring thing here that seems to be an opening mouth. But you can see the boat's coming in now. And as this boat goes across the picture, it seems to be interacting with the background in that it seems to have a proportionate relationship to the background by virtue of its own presence. And it seems to be changing this miraging thing as it's going across the scene, which I find bizarre. And I'm not saying it is. I'm just saying it certainly looks like it's interacting with the background. And now you can see that the boat itself is creating its own Fata Morgana. It's literally mirroring itself, but at the same time, it appears to be influenced by or influencing the background. So I'll just rewind it a little bit there so I can show you what I mean.
Wow, that's cool. Yeah, I didn't notice that when I was watching it.
So you've got the mirage here. This is where the mirage is, but the boat's coming in now. There's the boat coming in. And then the boat gets to here, but the mirage jumps. And then the boat gets to here, and now it jumps a bit more. And now it gets to there, and now it jumps a bit more. So it appears to be being caused or connected to, in some way, whatever we're looking at here, because it seems to be causing the background to change. But now it's getting a Fata Morgana on top of it, which wasn't there before. And if it was, I couldn't see it. Definitely got a Fata Morgana, but it definitely looks like it's interacting with the background, which I find bizarre.
No, I think that is just atmosphere. It was probably the diffraction is getting larger. That's why the background there, or maybe maybe the diffraction is getting smaller. Therefore, you're allowed to see more, and it's getting rid of the mirroring image. But I think that's just perfect timing, Anthony. Really,
it could be
one of those. Yeah, I think it's just as it was happening, the boat just happened to go by just at that perfect time. I don't think the boat could affect the image behind it.
Neither do I, but it does appear to be.
Yeah, that is really eerie. That's weird.
And halfway through now, it's got that Fata Morgana above it. So the bottom of the boat's gone. At this point, it's very squashed. Because if you look at it at the beginning, look at the way it looks at the end here. So the boat's in stream there, and all you can really see is the bridge of the boat, and you can just about make out that it is a boat, but you wouldn't argue that it was clear. But at the beginning, look at it. The boat at the beginning is clearly a boat.
Coming in right now, or is the tide going out? Do you know?
I haven't got a clue.
I don't think that's relative.
It is definitely
The
relative.
tide's coming up.
It's
It's
the
going to block
moment.
off or the bottom of the land, and you're not going to be able to see that mirroring effect. It'll just mirror.
Well, I have a bit of theory here.
Just before you do, Arwen, sorry, I've got to get this in. So it absolutely has an effect because the camera position is fixed, and if the tide rises, then it does limit your angle. It's like having a fixed camera above a table and then raising the table up. You're going to limit the angle that you see things at. And I think, as Zach asserts, it's just timing. As it's reaching that point where it's on the limit, that's why you get on the land, not on the boat, you get that inferior mirage. Whereas as it rises that little bit more at that particular moment, it breaches that and then you lose it. And the boat happens to go across at that particular moment. So I just think it's a coincidence in terms of timing. It could have been a boat that was going the other way if it had happened, a few minutes earlier. It just happened to happen at that time. And there's boats going by reasonably infrequently. So just timing.
So wouldn't lowering the camera, if the tide was lower, get the same basic view back? Isn't it what you're saying, a relationship between the actual height of the camera and the lens and the level of the water?
The water is rising. I can see it.
Yes.
But if it did rise and you lost your thing, if you raise the lens a bit, then you should get it back.
Correct.
Because it's back to
Absolutely
the level of
correct.
the water.
Exactly.
Was proceeding.
However, if you're a globehead, you would assert that, well, you're peering further over an Earth curve. Well, no, you're increasing your angle of attack by raising your camera.
Yeah.
Can I add something now?
Go ahead,
Because,
Darwin. Sorry to cut you off.
You can clearly see the mirroring on the left side, yet where the woods are, you don't see that much. I have a very strong theory about that, I think. And that is because the other side is basically land and earth that absorbs and releases a lot more heat than woods, which actually absorb the heat and don't release it.
No, wrong. It's
No.
just closer.
Woods cool.
It's wrong.
So
it's closer.
that's why there's no miraging on that
Is this
side.
like your
No,
other-
it's just closer. It's closer and bigger. You've got a wider angle of view to it. Simple.
How much closer is it?
Well, obviously and observably closer. You can see it's closer.
No, I want to know actual distances.
Okay.
How
Well-
much closer? Is it like a few meters, or is it like
Okay,
twice
fair
as
enough.
close
I can't
as the
back
left side?
that up with measurements, Arwin, but I'm going to assert that because it's bigger and therefore you have a wider angle of view to it, you don't reach the diffraction limit on the stuff on the right. You do on the stuff on the left.
Right. Well, I am pretty certain that heat does influence diffraction and miraging effects. It aggravates it, makes it stronger, and I'm seeing clear mirroring on the left side. I don't see how that is much further away than what's seen on the right. It's zoomed in, so I'd have to compare the actual distances to know.
Well, you can tell it's further
It's
away
just
because it's not a horizontal line. It's up on an angle, so it's clearly getting
Yeah,
further
it might
away.
be a little bit closer indeed, but I don't know how much. Is it like a kilometer or
Just out of
several
interest, Alan,
kilometers closer? Or?
Is this like your other strong viewpoint on gravity?
No, it's a concept. Come on, don't.
Oh, don't be
that.
horrible, Anthony.
Oh.
I just want to know the data and see if my assertion is correct, because it
Don't
is
take
known
the bait,
that
Arwin.
woods
Don't take the
absorb
bait.
heat and cool.
Don't take the
So-
bait. So anyway, this requires a bit more investigation. I think we'll all agree, but it is fascinating.
It's
Yeah, it's
pretty
cool.
Yeah,
Literally
I like
watching
it.
it come and go.
Thank you. We want to see more of this.
Does it make sense that, the boat casting the mirage or making the mirage, well, it's sort of like the mirage itself would cast its own shadow thereafter behind it?
No, I just find it incredible that there seems to be an interaction between the boat and the horizon itself. I mean, it sounds stupid, but it does look that way. And I don't know. I can't explain why it would do it if the boat wasn't there. It's like, shouldn't it go up or down rather than pan across from the right to the left? What I mean is, if there was a mirage coming in or a mirage going out, wouldn't you expect it to expand vertically or drop vertically from what we're seeing rather than taper off left to right? That just seems nonsensical to me.
Well, it's based
Well, you
on
got to think if the heat is coming in from like the ocean or something like that, from the left to the right, or the atmosphere is changing from the left to the right or right to the left. That's the way we would see it.
What I'm looking at is the land in the background, like a mountain type of thing. There's a small one right in the left, and another one like almost straight ahead, a little to the left. It's
Yeah.
always there, don't matter the mirage, so it's not looming. I bet it's there.
That's a good one.
yeah. Again, you've got a wider viewing angle to it. 'Cause it's a big mountain in the background.
Yeah, it does get a little bit more obstructed, but it doesn't change its positions at all.
Right. Well, on the earlier part of this footage, which isn't the bit we're studying, but the bit that typically gets looked at in great detail, you see that mountain in the background getting more compressed on the bottom and less compressed. Again, as the tide rises and falls and limits the angle that you can see it from. I know this is, for Zach, probably quite frustrating because you've understood this for 2 years. Me, 6 months, probably less. But you know, you can say it till you're blue in the face until people hopefully will eventually understand that these effects that we see, these miraging effects, are down to a limitation of an angle. Yes, atmospheric conditions also play a part, but that's what we get. That's why we get the mirage consistently. If you can see that far.
And really quick, look at the street lights on the Oblate camera. It looked like sounds like the bridge bending. He's been showing this perspective on the street light as he's driving along, and sometimes they look straight, sometimes they look bending. It's the street maybe, but it's cool. The perspective going on.
This is Oblate Spheroid's view, yeah.
Yeah, that's not a curve. It's just the uphill and a downhill.
One of the problems with like a single photo like Soundly tries to present is there's no one single photo or one single sentence that's gonna, you know, seal the deal that the Earth is flat and convince everybody, or curved for that matter. Silly to think that, you know. And it's like a guru worship station for ballers, that picture. Like, I don't know, having a cross with candles around it there. To worship it. It's like a global shrine. Silly. But that's all they have is little, like, idolatries to hang on to. Myths and babble. Space monkeys. Space cadets.
Did we get through housekeeping?
No. Any scientific evidence of gravity?
Before we go into that, shout out to Desi Bakes Cakes in chat.
Do you mean gravity, the phenomena of, you know, weight pulling down and all that stuff, or gravity seriousness?
Seriousness.
It's
Isn't
no
that
gravitational pull, that's for
gravitas?
certain.
That's gravitas, right?
Is it?
Either gravity. I don't mind what gravity people want to prove. If they want to prove Cavendish Newtonian gravity, then fine. If they want to try and prove Einsteinian bending of space-time, then fine. I don't care. It's all a load of nonsense. None of it has any scientific validity.
Hasn't answered yet.
Arwinian gravity.
We used to have a term often used, just dead weight, you know. No gravity there.
Is there a button somewhere that we can crank up this Newtonian gravity, and we can have little orbs orbiting around our heads, like little particle of dust?
Broke up a little bit
I don't
there,
know, that was
Jose.
up.
Say again.
Is there a button, like maybe in the North Pole, that we can crank up this power of the Newtonian gravity, where we can throw a little leaf in the air and it can keep orbiting our heads, and we can put different colors and like an aura around our heads as we walk around?
Oh, I'm sure we could find somewhere of that nature to celebrate the balliness of the ball in the globe cult. As their numbers diminish, we'll send them all there.
I'll tell you what's interesting. If science believes that we live on a sphere, and there was the Antarctic expeditions, what would be the purpose of having an Antarctic expedition in the first place if it's just the pole? In other words, there's only going to be cold, ice, wet, deep, bleak desolation there. There would be no reason to actually have an Antarctica expedition because there would be nothing there, right?
Right.
Penguins.
The fact that there is one, or there was any investigation whatsoever, indicates that, well, there must be something there. Otherwise, you wouldn't go there. There would be no reason to go there if we lived on a sphere.
It's a lot of cold, and it just took years and years and years just to move around that little island.
And only a few penguins to snuggle up to.
I mean, it's easier to explore deep space, which is fake, or the ocean. What I suggest they do, what would be the best idea, is to send some relative of the royal family down there and get them to come back with like really terrible injuries and tell everyone how dangerous it is so they keep well away. That would be my advice.
Can we send Arwen down there?
Or like Ranulph Fiennes, someone like that.
I'd need some serious funding, but sure.
Can have as much funding as you want.
Well, probably like somewhere in the hundreds of millions.
Hundreds of millions, and you go down there.
Yeah, sure.
No problem. We'll wire it in. Give us your account details.
I'll be your account.
You spend it when you get back.
Get it on your return.
No, I'll be spending it before I go there because I need the freaking equipment designed properly. With people that actually know their stuff and not gonna fuck around.
Not gonna be.
I think a gentleman named Des beat us all. 4 days he was supposed to prove the edge and all this stuff. But I think he fell on his face or something.
But sure, yeah, on the long run, if I get enough funds, I'll try something. But it's probably just gonna be talking to a lot of people before you can even remotely get anywhere, because you'd have to have multiple parties agree to something like that, and you're going to have a lot of trouble with insurances, and probably are not going to get any, and that's going to bring other troubles. It's going to be difficult to get it on a big scale. You could like slip out in one little boat, that's very nice, but if you actually want to do some land exploration, you're going to need vehicles, serious vehicles. So that's why I say hundreds of millions, because I want to do it right. But it might take a lifetime to get there.
But you think that's actually
Probably
quite interesting.
like 20 years or something.
NASA have developed these incredible rovers that can be shot through what they call space, and then go through incredible velocities, through different atmospheric conditions on different worlds, crash land, open up in an inflatable way, be functional, and then traverse almost any obstacle that they'll come to. But yet we don't have one of these things mapping and finding out every inch of the Antarctic.
Right, and if there's micrometeorites, you always got duct tape. Right? I was still referring to this incredible space vehicles from NASA.
Nathan, I know it's been asked hypothetically before, but if you were able to go to space, if NASA rang you up and said, Nathan Oakley, you're causing that much problem to our space program, we're going to have to send you into space. Aside from the experience it would be if it could happen, would you
send
actually
you
go?
Out of the airlock? You mean? Sorry.
Are you done?
What's the problem?
What?
Would I go to space? Is that the question?
Would you go to space if you could?
I don't think space is real.
No, I know. But if they offered it to you, would you go?
When I was a globehead, I wanted to go to space. And there was a competition that Lynx, or Axe, I think it's called out in the States, held to get people into space. I applied. I tried to campaign to get myself popular, to get me onto the Lynx Apollo mission so I could go up there. I wanted to see the Earth from space, absolutely. Now, I know space isn't real. So if they said, do you want to go to space, I'd laugh.
When you hear the lyrics from Red Hot Chili Peppers, space might be the final frontier, but it's made in a Hollywood basement. You tend to agree with that.
It is made in a Hollywood basement.
Yeah,
Space that they claim, vacuum of space, well, it's a second law of thermodynamics violation. You can't have the gas pressure we all know and love. We all definitely experience the gas pressure bit. We're breathing it. Well, you can't have that if we're simultaneously next to a vacuum. The gas pressure would push off into the vacuum of space, and it would reach an equilibrium. It's called entropy.
Yep.
You know, when you break the seal on a vacuum, air rushes into, you know, the lower pressure. When it equalizes, it balances out. It's done. You have to have a container.
Does it suck or does it get pulled in?
The air pushes in this instance. Yeah. The vacuum really is nothing. It's just an absence of air where it's been evacuated. It's a low pressure.
But how about the pressure
sense,
gradient? The higher you go, the lower the pressure gradient.
Okay,
oh, wait a minute.
What is causing the pressure? We're not talking vacuum.
Because of gravity.
Okay. No, we're talking vapor pressure of water again. As you go up, there's less and less water. This vapor pressure exerts the force. It is the pressure. Nitrogen and oxygen combined, they're just a medium with no exertion of force. They always stay constant. The water varies in the air. That's the weight, 10 pounds per gallon, square miles of it up above us. Taking up heat, cooling off, coming down, expanding, contracting, plus and minus. It's high and low pressure being created for that cycle.
You're telling them the answer. Giving the globe heads what they want here, Jimbo. You're explaining the dynamic system that we live in. Because every time they... It's right, and it's just we've held that information back for such a long time.
I gotta go to the door.
Yes, correct. But we've held the information back because every time we are up against a globe head, they come up to what they explain, or they ask the question, how do we have the density gradient? That's their question. When we say, how do you have gas pressure without a container? And as you said at the start, fair enough, you gave the disclaimer. First, you must explain where you get the gas pressure from, because their fantasy is the vacuum of space. So in their fantasy, first, where'd you get the gas pressure? Because you can't have gas pressure without a container. Now, there are explanations for why we have a gas pressure gradient, but we don't have to give them that in order to absolutely take a big fat dump on their assertion of a vacuum of space. But you've given it them now, so, you know, for those who paid attention, there's your answer if you actually want to go into the explanation of why we have a pressure gradient. We live in a dynamic system.
And you can't have that density gradient without pressure in the first place, but you can't have the pressure in the first place without some kind of container. And they ignore it. They just literally ignore that question. I don't know how
Anthony. Hold on, Anthony.
Honest with themselves.
Hold on, Anthony.
And, like, not feel the need to prove it themselves.
Hold on, Anthony. No one can hear what you're saying. Hold on. Blake, did you want to say something? You've come off mute and lost every word Anthony just said. Did you want to add something? No, just sharing his road noise. Thanks, Blake.
You guys know the answer to all of these gas pressure and gradients is gravity, right? From the globe perspective.
Yeah, I know. But it's a circular argument from our perspective, because if gravity is the answer to everything, then you've got to prove that gravity. And despite Arwen's protest that it's a thing, it just isn't a thing, but they've got to prove that there's a gravity there, and they can't.
Yeah, but you're misconstruing evidence with proof.
No, I'm not. I'm pointing out that you have
hold
no
on, let's not veer off topic.
Evidence.
Hold on. Let's not veer off topic. We're talking about gas pressure without a container. If the assertion is gas pressure without a container is achieved with gravity, there's no way on God's green earth Arwen's going to show me gravity maintaining gas pressure without a container. Just concede that, Darwin.
Indeed.
Right.
Of course.
Thank you.
It's still that's a ridiculous theory. It's even theoretically impossible, and that's why I say never when it comes up with housekeeping, because it's ridiculous.
What I don't get, Arwen, is if you admit that it's a theoretical suggestion, why do you defend it so vehemently as though it's a fact?
So, any evidence of R?
You just lost my point there, Nathan.
I know. I'm deliberately doing it.
Because you're being a whining bitch.
No, it's not because he's been. No, right. Go at him, Anthony. Have at it. Fine.
Well,
Gates
I
open.
just don't understand why you would defend something so vehemently that you realise and admit that is like theoretic at best, but not true. Why would you do? Is it purely because you don't?
No,
want
that's
to admit
all.
that it's-
What depends on your definition of true. There are certain truths that I hold very dear, and certain principles, and I can
what?
scientifically prove them.
Like what? What do you hold dear?
Code of conduct, principles,
And you class these as truths.
senses, sensory input that I get, recognition of things that I can't really explain. Yeah,
Or
I
prove.
trust those things. I can't prove them, but
Well-
probably statistically analyze them and then deduce a conclusion from it. But that's not scientific proof, according to you guys. So, yeah,
Well,
there's a
absolutely.
lot of things that are not scientifically proven that I trust on, and gravity just happens to be one of them. And there's
Science.
plenty of evidence around, just not scientific evidence and not scientific proof.
Then it's not credible in science.
Not credible. I'm not using it as some kind of
Unicorn.
credible weight in
Unicorn
anything.
rabbit.
I'm just having a debate about it, and I'm figuring out.
Well,
There we
I
go
wouldn't
with
class what you have as a debate, to be honest. What you
Come on,
have is
Owen,
like a really
that was your
high,
response.
emotionally
Somebody
charged
saying it's
fight
not
that-
credible because it's not scientific evidence, and you go, not scientific. That's your response to that.
Yeah.
Arwen is like the Russell Crowe of A Beautiful Mind. Oh, better yet, the K-Pax guy. What's his name?
You're trying to remind me of something that I don't like, and I fully admit. And you're just poking me with it. It's really annoying. Because I've never tried to suggest that I did have this. Okay? So why do you keep poking me with it? It's just
Because you're
unnecessary.
the
It's
only one
bullying.
that pushes it. Literally the only one that pushes it.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
No, there are other people's.
Like,
There are
name
people
one
in my
person
chat.
that agrees with you.
Yeah, well, I know multiple people that do agree
Just
with
one.
me.
I can name one.
Vsauce.
Nora, no one's flower.
I vote for me.
Yeah?
Nora. Well, you can have Nora.
Right. Oh, well, thanks.
And Pete
Yeah,
Shea
well,
pushes
there's
it
other
as well.
people too, and there's people that are still reserved and just digging into it. They're learning, just like
No,
I
we're
am.
not
as I
learning.
go.
Nobody's learning, Arwen.
Yeah, I
That
am
implies that
learning.
there's
You're
something to
not
learn.
learning anything because you're still looking for your brain, Mr. Scarecrow.
Well, if there's
We-
no
we
evidence,
made it
Arwen,
to
I don't need a
volumetric
brain to be able
math
to work
there.
out there's no evidence.
You know, that was big. Density, once it gets there a bit clearer, it's big step.
Jimbo,
Big step forward.
Get out, man. Don't even get it.
Volumetric mass and density have to
Shut
be
up.
very carefully, and they're
I'm
not.
interested
That's
in
all.
your
Of course, you're not
eternal
interested in accuracy. Of
monologue crap.
course not.
Come on, let's
You
not
make
just
mistakes all over the
Arwen,
place, so-
come on. This is not a losing. No matter which way this goes, you're not going to be in a losing position here. So just don't lose your temper. There's no need.
I don't want Jimbo to get involved. He's not a good debater.
Well, I want Jimbo to get involved if he
I
wants to
don't.
get involved. That's the point of a debate.
No, you're debating this with me, and you're constantly pulling and pushing at me. That's my business with you.
No, but if
I
Jimbo
want
wants to
Jimbo
get involved
involved.
because he agrees with me or disagrees with you, then so be
No,
it.
because of the
Or
way he
disagree
does it.
with both of you.
Sucks.
In instances, I mean, it's like you know, I don't always agree with everyone. I agreed with you yesterday, Arwen, when you said something, and I forget what it was because well, things sort of degraded. But
He just said
you
it was Thursday.
Well, that's good.
no, I can agree when I think something's right. It doesn't mean I'm right or both of us would be right in that instance, but
Indeed,
I'm not
and that's
against
exactly
you.
what I do as well.
sort of like convoluted ideas that aren't sciences. Just
I don't
You
think
could
I
call
would
that
ever
on.
agree with anybody.
Not convoluted at all. There's still plenty of evidence. It's just not scientifically provable.
What do you mean when you say evidence, Arwen?
Well, that's what we've been debating about for, 2 days, 3 days now.
Remember the eggs, Arwen. Remember the eggs.
Yeah, but that has nothing to do with the actual thing I'm pointing out every time. And I don't care to get over that again and go in that carnivore ride again. Because I know where it's going to go. Nowhere. It's going to be the same bullshit over and over again. Because
No, it
that's
could
the
go
way
somewhere
he
else,
handles
but
himself.
you have to be patient enough to take 2 minutes to listen to something, and I don't think that's possible.
Yeah, it is. Let him speak very long
So
times
can I
in a
try
row.
something with the egg and the cylinder and the water?
Yeah.
He's not going to
This
answer
has
you.
nothing to do with the symptoms,
Does that answer
the
me?
things
No.
that I point
Just
at.
saying no.
It's
So
an
I want the
example
water.
of density and
Jimbo.
buoyancy. I do not deny density and buoyancy. For God's sake.
Arwen, before you fight the hell out of it, yes, please, Jimbo. I would like that. Yes, please.
Yeah, I would too.
Okay, now with the egg and the water, brackish solution, the volumetric mass applies to the egg. Its volume is not going to change. So you can calculate its volumetric mass. The water also, its volume won't change. Its density will, but when you take your float in its middle, it has a density. You're not adding more salt to the water. So it also, conforms to the math that you can use with volumetric mass. Now, the egg is a solid. Now, say, for example, we replace the egg with a small balloon the same size, with a little tray and a string or a string on it to pull it under the water. Now we have a different issue. That little bladder, the deeper it goes, is going to compress. It's going to change the density. Its volume is going to change, and the pressure within the closeness of these things to each other in the balloon holding it open are going to be forced to push together. So its density will change. So now we don't and can't use a consistent unit of measure, which would be volumetric mass, because the volume is going to change. So in this instance, this thing underwater, this bladder, we need to use in formulas density. But with the egg and the water,
What's the cause of the weight?
no.
What's the cause of that pressure?
Mass and weight are different.
Yeah, I know. So what is the cause of that pressure? Those pressures that are divided among the matter so
The
specifically.
water.
Yeah, I'm just talking about the difference between the solid egg and the bladder and the use of...
Yeah, and you use pressure in your wording and your explanation. So where is that pressure actually coming from?
the water exerting force on the skin of the balloon.
Why?
And the air
Why does
having
it do
less
that?
distancy within the bladder compresses.
So
Because
why
the
does
force
it do
of the
that?
water presses against it because the walls of the container are holding it in and can't exert force outward.
Yeah, but why are they exerting that force?
Because you're pulling the balloon down. You're applying a force to the balloon or the bladder to submerge it.
That's not the reason why the water presses against things. That's ridiculous. That's an extra type
So,
of pressure.
okay, the pressure is
mechanical force
exerted
introduced.
equally everywhere against the sides of the walls. The only place there's no pressure
That's not
being
true.
exerted on the cylinder is the air and space above on the top. All the
That's not
walls
true.
have
The pressure is
pressure
not the same
exerting,
everywhere.
and they are holding in the water. And the egg in your experiment, it is part of, if you wanted someone to repeat it, you'd write a monograph. You'd say you need a cylinder this big, some water, some salt, and an egg, and you do this and this and this. You couldn't leave out the cylinder. It's not an imposter in all this. It's part of the equation. It's holding all
Pressure
that
is
water
not
and
the
your
same.
experiment in one place.
Hey, Dan.
Pressure is not
Hey,
the
how you
same
doing?
everywhere.
But to my basic point again, the egg and the bladder underwater have two different ways that you have to apply mass to calculate, to be relatively accurate on something. But again, a bladder says that, again, what I'm trying to emphasize here, that even the water in the egg, you can do all the math in the world you want with volumetric mass, come out with perfect results and repeat experiments. Take
I
a
know,
bladder,
and I adopt
and you
that.
cannot use the volumetric mass in the same way. So that's all I'm saying. The density is being misused, overused, and in the wrong place at the wrong time. That's all I'm saying.
Apart from when it comes to the gravity
I agree to
argument,
that.
in which
I
case it's
definitely-
extremely useful.
I adopt a volumic mass. And try to use that as much as possible instead of density, unless it's like
When
the laws of density and
the-
buoyancy.
The air around us, you measure with density, not with volumic mass, because it has different pressures. It can go from 30-some pounds or 30-some inches of mercury to 27 or 28 for storms.
So is there no pressure on the air at all?
Where on
Is it just
on
a-
us? It varies. We got lows and highs, good weather, bad weather.
Yeah, and well, if you go up higher, then the pressure becomes a lot lower. So it seems that
That's right, because
the
there's
pressure
less
is not
water.
evenly divided.
Well,
Basically.
the
So
pressure
that
is
means that one
caused by
part is going to
something.
have more pressure on it than
Arwin,
the
stop speaking over him.
causing that.
As you
Arwin, stop
rise,
speaking over
it
him.
gets colder. The water condenses out of the air. The water, the vapor pressure, and that's a real thing. Vapor pressure. Have you ever heard of it? Vapor pressure.
Right. So
Yeah,
why?
vapor pressure
But
is what
that
gives us
stops
our
at a
air
certain
pressure
point.
variations. How much weight of water is in the air?
I get that. I get that. I agree. But at a certain point, that no longer happens because
It's too
can't
cold.
reach
There's
that
no
part.
water.
Can't get
that-
high enough without cooling
Yeah.
down and then falling back.
Then
So,
you-
but still up there, above where the water can no longer reach, can no longer dissolve in the air properly. Still there, that location has a
Yes.
certain pressure, and then if you go higher up, the pressure is going to be even
Well,
lower.
yeah.
So
Oh,
it doesn't.
okay,
It's not
now-
explained by the water vapor
Now,
solution.
here we get into the subtlety of the matter. Again, the higher you go to 100,000 feet, say, the pressure is 0.004 or so psi. That's extremely low pressure. But pressure and vacuum are not the same. The
I
reason
know,
the
I'm not
pressure is
discussing
low
that.
and there's still air there. It's not a reduced
I
vacuum
know.
type of
I'm
situation.
not arguing for a
There's-
vacuum.
There's
I'm not
air,
arguing for a
the
vacuum.
oxygen and nitrogen are still there, except there's no water, so there's no vapor pressure. That's why we see 0.00 psi. It's just representing how little water vapor pressure is up there,
Yeah.
not the amount of molecules of oxygen and nitrogen. I don't really think the air is thinner up there per se.
But the pressure is higher, and pressure is coming from somewhere. Is lower.
Yeah.
It's coming from somewhere. And if you go up even higher, despite the absence of vapor pressure, it's still going to be lower. So yeah, sorry,
we don't
that
go
doesn't
higher,
explain
and
the
that's
gradient.
the
It doesn't explain the pressure gradient.
Well,
Yes,
the pressure
it does.
gradient's actually not a pressure gradient, Arwin.
Yeah, it is.
It's a
It's just
density gradient that's
less
caused by the
and less
pressure.
water in the air because of the cold of ascension. It's colder
Yeah,
the
but
higher you go.
correlate the density and the pressure. The more density something has, the more pressure it will exert because
Pardon me?
of
Pardon me?
the laws of forces. Mass directly and mass is also involved in density, directly correlates. So yeah, the more
Well,
mass it has,
density varies in
the
gas
more
and the air.
weight it has,
Weight
the
and mass
more
are
pressure
different.
it will exert, even with air.
You're switching
matters.
back and forth, and that's part of the disambiguous nature of these debates and
Yeah,
stuff.
but you can basically just fit them
For
together.
use of weight and mass as a standard, we use mass in science. It's
know.
very rare that we retort to weight for anything.
It's very specific, isn't it?
Yeah, I
Yes,
know. I was
that,
very.
that
specific.
avoids
Thank
this
you very
bullshit
much.
confusion when you pull
No,
in
no confusion. I
weight,
was very
mass,
specific.
weight,
You can
because
listen back. Okay.
weight and
I
mass
was
are
very
different.
specific.
Mass is a constant, weight is a variable.
Yeah. No shit.
No shit.
Uh,
So why do you want to throw in a variable where it doesn't belong?
What? What doesn't belong? I'm not trying to propose a scientific method here. Just laying out correlations. Thank you.
No,
very
what he's
much.
doing is pointing out that if you're going to accept weight, which is a variable, then you're not reducing your chances of error because you're allowing a variable when you
I'm
should have a
not using
constant.
it weight as a cornerstone. I just
Yeah, that's
pointed
the
at
problem.
it. Like, yeah, and it also
Listen to what he's saying.
weight. Pressure, weight directly also correlate. So
Jimbo, explain it again.
Even pressure can be expressed in mass in newtons, but mass, you use mass by default as much as you can unless there's an absolute reason that you need the actual calculations of weight as a variable. Other than that, you use mass.
Oh, well, sorry for
You
pointing.
do. I mean,
I'll
there's-
not mention it again. Sorry.
Owen, why are you doing that?
don't
You're
know.
behaving like
I
a
don't know.
belligerent
I don't
teenager.
understand.
Why won't you just listen to what he's got to say and either comprehend it and accept it, or disagree with it and provide a reasonable objection? I don't get why you're like a teenage kid.
Because he's the only thing he's doing is just pointing. Oh, you're using weight. You're using weight. and not actually listening to everything else I said. So he's just
No, but I
nitpicking.
agree.
Oh,
Why
hold
you
on, hold on,
shouldn't use
Anthony.
weight.
What's his objection, Arwin, to you using weight? What's his objection?
That it's not. Yeah, that's a variable.
And why
basically,
would that be an
and-
objection? Hold
and
on.
that it's not necessary, basically, to point a certain structure. And I agree to that. I'm not using it as a cornerstone in the whole system. Okay, just basically pointing out correlations. That all. Weight
But he's
is. I
asking
could
why
leave
would
it
you
out.
use
That's
it?
fine.
He's asking why would
Jeez.
you use it when it introduces a variable?
I just pointed at it. It's not part of the most important fundamental structure that I was pointing at, which is just the correlation between mass and pressure. And that when a force is applied to mass, there is a direct motion or pressure that comes out of that. So where is it coming
everything
from?
you've just described, Darwin, is the density buoyancy relationship, and literally sod all of what you said had to do anything with gravity.
No,
Yeah, 'cause you're
I'm
asking
asking for the cause.
Of the pressure.
You just gave the full relationship in that explanation.
I did, yes.
So there's no other thing required beyond that.
All right, well, okay, if you accept that, that's perfect.
Well then, so you'll relinquish gravity then? You don't need anything else.
No,
Gravity
I
wasn't-
don't.
Do you not see that you've now basically, Arwin, have you got a religious belief in?
I've never gotten an answer to the question. Okay, why did
You have. You just
radiate
refuse
different?
to
Why
listen.
again? The alignment, the whole thing. I'm asking, just why? Why?
Right.
It's not
But this is the
automatically
reason why.
explained why
This
these
is the reason why I attack.
this alignment,
You
the
keep saying
pressures.
that nobody's
Where's
ever
it coming
answered your
from?
question.
Where's the pressure
Now,
coming
many
from?
times.
Where's the displacement
okay.
coming from?
Anthony's trying to give you an explanation. Hopefully, for the
I
next
wasn't
two-
done yet.
But you keep asserting that nobody's ever answered your question, but it's been answered many times. The fact that you reject it not the point, same as saying that
It's
we've not answered it.
nonsensical. It was completely nonsensical what you threw at me.
No, the answer to your question, why does it
Medium,
align the
so,
way it
oh
does,
yeah, that
is
explains
by
it.
virtue
It's just-
of the
no, it
fact
doesn't
that we've got
explain
Arwin,
where
you're
the force
just
is coming
rumpusing.
from.
Listen,
Arwin, you're
the reason
rumpusing.
why they align themselves that way is because they've got a different density to each other. It's relational.
Yeah, goody. Doesn't explain where's the pressure coming from. What is causing that? Where's the energy stored? Conservation of energy. Where is it stored?
Or I'll tell him I'll bring you.
Chemical, mechanical, pressure, anything. Energy conserved. So where is it coming from? I know how density and buoyancy work. I just want to know what causes it. Where is this force coming from?
What force? Right,
What
a force
force?
requires a physical
Right.
interaction, right?
I was waiting
Motion,
for that gap
motion,
too.
displacement,
motion is not the
pressure.
same
Hold
as
on,
force.
hold
Motion,
on, hold on.
displacement,
Anthony asked the
pressure.
right question first off. I was waiting for a pause to ask the exact same question. What force?
What?
What force? You said
The
I'm
force
looking for where the
that
force
is
is coming
causing
from.
the displacement, the motion, and the pressure. Where
so-
does that originate? Where is
You
that
know that a
stored?
force requires a physical interaction, right?
Yeah, indeed. So where is it coming from?
So when I pick up a toy car off the bench and I drop it, the physical interaction was the hand that picks it up and then drops it, right? That's the physical interaction. Where's the physical interaction with something that moves?
Well, you're not storing energy in an object just by picking it up because
didn't ask
there's
about
no
stored
energy
energy.
reading. It's just being displaced
I
direction.
didn't ask about stored energy. I asked about a physical interaction. When I pick up
Right.
a toy car off the bench and drop it, there was a physical interaction between picking it up and dropping it. It was the hand.
Those are
that
two
picked it up.
different actions.
There are, but
It
the
takes
first action
energy to
specific-
pick it up. To drop
The
it
first
doesn't
action
cost much
specific-
energy, yet it falls
Arwin,
with a similar strength.
the first interaction specifically had a force that was physical that interacted with the object. It was a hand
Yeah, I heard
that
you.
picked up the object. There was the interaction of the hand with the object. That was the force.
I heard you. Doesn't
so
explain
where's
why
the
it
force?
takes so little energy to drop it, yet it goes down with so much force that has not been stored anywhere. It's
Right.
not measured anywhere.
let's not look at the
It's
second
just
part.
happens.
Let's not look at the second part. Let's look at the first part.
Oh, let's not. Yeah, sure. Let's not. That's very nice. Yeah.
No, the first part is where we move it. There was a force, which was the hand.
I heard you. You don't have to tell it over again.
Right. So we stop at the point before we let go of it because the hand moved the car. Okay.
Ray.
We agree?
Yeah.
Right. So where's the force that forces the density buoyancy alignment?
That's what you did. By
introducing
your chemical energy to displace it.
No.
Through physical motion. Yeah.
We do have an explanation for why it does it. It's called density.
Now you displaced it.
No, I didn't.
Yeah, you did. You just described picking it up. What the hell, man?
No, I'm on about the density buoyancy ratio in terms of the liquids or whatever. Liquid like the egg and the egg.
We're talking about freaking forces. What the hell, man?
Yes, that's right. We're talking about forces.
I love that egg
So
example.
what causes that force that causes these effects?
Right,
Where's the pressure
toy
coming
car
from?
and the hand picks up the toy car. The hand is the force.
Yeah, but that's mechanical energy.
Correct.
That's clearly, provably stored in you to displace it.
Right.
Correct.
So what's the other force then required for your density buoyancy alignment?
Gravity.
Can you prove it?
No. Not
But we can prove
scientifically.
that they've got different densities, right?
Yeah. They
And we
exist.
know that if we manipulate the environment that these densities sit in, we can force them to displace.
Yeah, by introducing other forces. Yeah.
Right. So when you say nobody's ever answered the question about the density buoyancy alignment, what causes it? And we say there is no force, it's the density itself. That is your answer. And we have answered it many times, but you dismiss it. But that doesn't mean it's not been answered.
It doesn't explain where it's coming from.
It comes from its own density.
No, it's just a description. It's not explaining inherently where it's coming from.
But we know that they've both got different densities.
Yeah,
both
we know how it works. We know what we see, what we observe, how
Right.
that works in detail. But it
But there's
doesn't
no-
explain where it's coming from.
But there's no force though, Arwin.
No, there's no force though. Oh, really? Well, displacement, yeah, that's a force at play right there.
If there was
Every
a force,
time there is motion, there is force. That's the
No, that's not
foundation of
true.
it.
That's
Oh,
not.
really?
No, the only time you have to have a physical
Oh.
interaction. Otherwise, you've just got an acceleration, Arwin. That's the problem.
Right,
You need
right.
a physical interaction for it to
No.
be a force.
No. When there is displacement, when there is movement, and when there's pressure, there's a force at play.
No, that's not.
Yeah,
the
it is. Yeah. Look
No,
it
that's
up.
not the
It
definition.
is.
It states a physical force, a physical interaction.
Right.
It doesn't say a metaphysical. It says physical.
Right.
Right. So you haven't got a physical interaction, have you? You haven't even got a metaphysical
Yeah,
interaction.
we do. We do. The displacement. It's coming
No,
from
that's the
somewhere. So
effect.
what is causing that displacement?
That's the effect.
What is the key route? What is the source, the energy storing factor? Where is it coming from? Conservation of energy.
No, we know that
Yeah,
the liquids have all got a
conservation of
different
energy.
density.
Where is it coming from?
We know that
What
the
is
liquids have
causing
got
that?
Let me
different
just try this a different way. Instead of him picking up the toy car, Arwin, he forces it under the bathwater.
Yay.
Yeah, and it's more buoyant than the water. So when you let it
Right.
go, it comes back up. Where did that force come from?
From the gravity exerted on the water, causing its higher volumic mass to pressure in all directions and including pushing the lighter density object upwards out.
But
Because there's
done
a
it
pressure
against-
causing all this pressure.
Yeah, before
It's
it
coming
got
from
there,
somewhere. There's a
but
force
it
there.
But it wasn't in the water until you pushed it under and displaced
That's
that
right.
mass. Right.
Yeah.
So you caused it. The force wasn't anything to do with gravity. You forced it under the water.
Yeah, but that's not. Yeah, that's your force. But then
Yeah, but
it
it's the
gets
same.
pushed back.
But in
by
that instance,
standard force. The
in
force
that
that is
instance,
all
it's
present.
less. In that
That
instance,
causes
it's
material
I'm
pressures
getting
and
rumpus by
everything.
Arwin. So in that instance, it's less buoyant than the medium that it's going to be passing through. Whereas in the air, it was more, or more dense,
know.
I should say. I've mixed up my terms, but you know what I'm saying. When he forces it under the water, you're forcing yourself into that dense relationship with the water and the toy car, which is more buoyant. So you're causing that to happen. The way the water was pressurizing its environment didn't change. You interacted with it. It was still doing all those things when it was a bathtub full of water. There was no
Yeah,
force
so
involved.
what's
other than
causing that water to pressurize?
But it was
everything
already doing
like
it before
did?
you got involved. It was still at its given density before you did anything. And then you forced something under the water and it popped back up. So you're saying that gravity was always pulling the water down? Well, yeah, that didn't make any difference to you forcing the thing under the water.
Yeah.
Well, so it's a zero difference result. It doesn't make any difference. Don't need gravity in this example.
You do.
No,
because
you don't.
There's pressure coming from somewhere to cause the buoyant effect, to cause the density layers.
The pressure's coming from its own density.
Because that's not how that works. It's the mass does not have inherent energy. It has to come from somewhere.
I didn't mention
when
energy.
It's stationary, it's not carrying energy.
When
it's being displaced by something else, it's not carrying energy. It happens to it.
The problem is
it's not inherent carrier of energy or motion energy. That's ridiculous. You can't prove that.
We can. We can manipulate it.
No, you
and force
can't.
It to move. Yeah, we can. We can manipulate it and force it to move.
Yeah, but you can't prove that it's being stored like that. You can't.
Yeah, we can. We can change it by adding salt to the liquid solution and the egg will move.
Just creating more density, allowing the water to subject more pressure, pushing it upward.
Not pressure.
And that is still being caused by a force subjected to the entire thing.
You force a state of non-neutral buoyancy by putting salt in it. You increase the density of the water, and the egg moves.
I know.
Right. Here's the thing, Darwin. For you to have gravity, you've got to show that there's a force. Agreed?
Why don't you say yes?
That there is a force.
Right.
How I can only deduce it. I've already said this so many times.
Let's look at 3 different definitions and just see whether we can slip in your gravity that does to try and satisfy the definition of force. And we'll not pick one, we'll just pick 3 and then see whether we can get them over 3 of them. Right. So is gravity, right? To satisfy the definition of force, gravity must be an interaction that, when unopposed, will change the motion of an object. A force that can cause an object with mass to change its velocity to accelerate. So if gravity is an interaction, when unopposed, will change the motion of an object. So if gravity is interacted, then you can have it as a force.
Did you say oppose? Did you say oppose? Because when you're actually doing something like lifting up, what are you opposing then? What's the force you are opposing? Because
it's an interaction that will change the motion of an object.
Right. By introducing a force.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
that's what he's detailing, Owen.
Other force.
Detailing a force
that is present.
He's just detailing
counterbalance
Hold on,
to
Owen.
Cause a disequilibrium.
Hold on. He's not detailing other force, just force, because that's what we're talking about. The force.
Counter force that suggests another force.
So not
this way. Yeah, it's right there. Counter force.
Let me put it this way.
Our starting point, Arwin, was what force?
Well, in this case, the force of you exerting a mechanical force stored in the form of chemical energy in your body.
Yes.
That's what you do. You introduce that force opposing the counter forces, causing a disequilibrium, making motion, creating motion.
Would you disagree with me if I said in the egg experiment or the egg thing, if I said that the salt was the interaction, but you then said that the gravity was something else, that would be a secondary force, wouldn't it?
A secondary force? It would be the counter force. If you pick
salt.
something up, then gravity is going to be the counter force. It's going to make you need to exert mechanical energy to counter that force. Yeah, that's right.
So I'm not clear on what your answer was. My question was, if we said that the salt was the force because it interacted with the water, it made it more dense, and then it forced displacement. If the salt was the interaction...
Force. How does salt exert pressure just by existing? Tell me.
It increases the density of the water,
It doesn't. It just
I know, causing more pressure to
But
be
would you say
exerted.
that was an interaction?
It has nothing to do. It's not like a physical interaction. You're just changing the solution. It's not the same thing as mechanical motion. You're not introducing mechanical motion. You're just changing the solution, causing it to get another density, changing its volumic mass. So all the forces that are applied and in equilibrium as far as they can, that are applied, will start to increase their pressure on the environment and everything that is in it, including the egg. So yeah, the forces that are already applied to it will then increase because the mass has increased of the average.
Let's play a yes/no
mass.
game. Yes/no game. Only yes/no answers. Okay. Was the salt an
Yeah, that's good
interaction?
enough for you. Yeah.
Was the salt an interaction? Yes or no?
Wasn't a motion interaction. No, it was not.
In this definition, we're going to do 3. Was the salt an interaction with the water and the density of the egg?
No, it was not a motion-based interaction.
Then you've got to be
No
trolling.
force being introduced.
So you disagree that there was an interaction caused by salt?
There was no force-related interaction.
So what did the salt do then?
It dissolved.
And it changed the density of the water,
That's right.
and then that forced the egg to move. That's
Well,
the interaction.
there was a motion indeed.
Right.
Because there is force being subjected to the entire thing. And now there has been a disequilibrium because the mass has changed of the total thing. So yeah, the
mass?
forces that are already applying to there are going to redistribute the masses within it to find the new equilibrium. And that's called
The mass
density
has
buoyancy.
Hold on,
Right,
hold on, Anthony.
literally-
So, Anthony, so what Owen's doing is he's simultaneously dismissing the interaction and substituting it with gravity.
Yeah. Let's try a different definition then. We'll go
Introducing
for- we'll
salt
go for
is
3.
not a physical interaction. You're not putting a weight on it or anything.
It's a chemical force.
Moving it.
Chemical
So-
force, non-human
We're
chemical
talking
force.
about forces, right? Well, throwing salt in water is not introducing a force. It's just changing the
It
solution.
says an interaction.
That's not physical
Well, the
motion.
definition
based.
was on screen, Arwin. Any interaction. It was on screen while you were saying it.
So let's go with the second one, Arwin. In physics,
pushed
a
or
force-
pulled. Pushed or pulled. So, yeah. Did you
Okay,
throw
yeah,
it in?
Here's one. So how can I push or pull you without touching you? How can I push or pull you without contact?
You couldn't.
Did you say I couldn't?
You couldn't. No.
Correct. I can't push or pull you without touching you, right? There's got to be an interaction.
I could. Sorry. If he was in a pool of water, I could change the density of the water, and like your egg, it would change his position relative to the density that he was in.
Gonna put Owen into salt water.
Yeah, basically, I could put not in salt water, but whatever gelatin or whatever would be the necessary density to suspend Darwin, and then I can manipulate the liquid or whatever that he's in to manipulate it in the same way as the egg was manipulated. So I wouldn't have to actually touch him, but I could manipulate his medium like you're manipulating the medium the egg is in. Anyway, sorry.
It's not building velocity, and that's still in the definition there. Right?
What about
There's
this
no
one then, Alan?
velocity involved. You're just adding something to the solution.
What about this one? This is the third one, or maybe the fourth. A force is a push or a pull upon an object resulting from the object's interaction with another object. That's a bit of a problem for you.
No, it's not. So how are you pushing and pulling on the water?
By changing the density of the water around it with salt.
Oh, really? Does
Yeah, really.
that, so throwing something in makes you push or pull it? It's not
There's
very
an
consistent
interaction.
mechanically. That's
There's an interaction with another object, in this case salt.
yeah, a push or a pull based interaction.
With an interaction based on another object. So we know that there's salt in the observation.
Is it an object? Really?
Yeah, salt.
More like,
salt
are,
we know
so
that
are you
salt-
throwing a crystal in there, or are you throwing fine stuff? It's not really.
Yeah, but the
single
point is,
object.
it's going to be his crescendo, and you're trying to hijack it. Yeah, he changes the relative density, Arwin. Yes.
We
Right.
both agree that the salt does change the density of the water that the egg sits in. Agreed?
Could I
Absolutely.
step in here for 1 second?
Not yet. Just one sec.
Okay.
Just one sec. So if we can both agree that the salt changes the density, right? The salt is interacting with the water that it's going to dissolve in and it's changing the density. Okay.
Right.
But if you're going to say gravity causes it, what's the
No, not the
interaction with
solution
another
part,
object?
no.
What's the interaction?
The interaction, well, the interaction is the actual mass being increased, subjecting the entire thing
Mass is
to
a
more
continuous-
force,
Mass is a
which
constant.
is ever present.
Mass is a constant.
Hold on. The other thing is
That's right.
The thing,
And it's increasing, actually.
hold on. The thing that's causing that, Arwin, is Anthony's interaction with the material in question, not gravity.
No, it's actually the salt dissolving, creating a different type of volumic mass. That's
Yeah.
what
But that
actually
would only
doesn't-
work
It,
if the density didn't
it doesn't
change.
really matter if you do something with some kind of physical motion or you use a trapdoor or whatever. You're just adding something to the solution. That's not a push or pull motion related interaction.
Yeah, it is.
That
That's
point
what it
would only be
causes.
valid
No, it's not. It's
It
adding
causes the
something
egg
to
to
a solution.
move
That's not
up
a
or
push
down.
or pull.
Yes, it does.
Action.
It causes the egg to move up or down relative to your observation.
But that's not really your action. That's what the water is doing because it is already subjected to pressure, to force, causing that pressure, and it changes.
No, not a force
Because
or a
the
pressure.
density
It's
is
in a
the
relative
mass
medium.
changes.
It's in a relative medium.
It's
Jimbo,
an
do you want?
anti-gravity machine.
Hold on, Anthony. If you do you want to conclude, or is Jimbo okay to step in?
Well, the conclusion is that we know that the salt changes the density of the water, and we know that the salt does interact with the outside water of the egg experiment thing. So we can satisfy that definition with salt and the change in the density of. However, if you're going to argue that there's another force involved or a different interpretation, you've got to keep the density of the water the same and make that egg move. Otherwise, the density is the explanation.
Okay, I could do that. Yeah.
Go on then.
Well, I'd have to either change the pressure dramatically or I'd have to subject it
We
to
didn't change the
another force like acceleration.
No, but you're making another variable.
Definitely change its position.
No, but you're making another variable. You're changing a different variable. to
Oh,
the-
really? So I can't do that. Oh,
you
so you're
can't
saying,
do
oh,
that.
you have to just prove gravity. That's what you're saying. Yeah, you love it. You love it so
do
much.
that
Rub that in
if
my
you
face.
just got the
So
salt.
nice, so classy.
You can't do that if you're changing the
Yeah,
salt.
no shit, you can't do that.
Right. So that kind of
Right.
destroys
No,
your own
why don't
argument.
you drop it? Why
That
don't you drop
destroys-
that?
No, that destroys
your
your own
answer.
argument if you can't do that.
Or whatever the freaking hell I like. Okay?
Oh, really?
Yeah. Oh, really? Yeah.
So then you're going to claim victim status when you lose your temper because we all say it's nonsense.
Or kick
No,
me.
you're saying it's nonsense.
I don't.
Screw
Arwin,
yourself.
no.
Okay, before you get into a
Screw
row,
yourself.
can I just... Sorry, both of you. Jimbo, go ahead.
Well, the egg in the water is kind of akin to the helium balloon that you let go in the air. It's much the same, except again, calculations would be a bit different because it's a bladder, and as it increases, if the air pressure decreases around it, it'll increase in volume, expand.
Yeah, but that's not really the same.
It's
the egg
identical.
is
in a sense,
It is. It's identical.
the
Other
air-
than the balloon
yeah,
expanding, it's
it's
identical
related.
to the egg.
It's a bit related.
It's
But
just something...
on adding salt to the water, when you add a small amount of salt to the water, it does displace the volume of the water, but most of it is absorbed without changing the volume in the cylinder. It just increases the volumic mass of the water. Again, if its volumic mass increases, the eggs does not. So
Would you agree that the salt does interact with the other object, being the water?
it's just minceable. It's just in there pretty much like as transparently as water vapor in the air. It
So is that a yes or a no?
shares, yes, it shares the space, and it increases the actual number of atoms in that space.
So
Physically.
that was a yes.
Yes.
Right. So if the salt interacts with the water and then we see displacement and we can explain it with density, then Arwin's position has to be that there must be another interaction of some kind to make, and the density of the water stay the same to explain why it moves.
Well, the salt, when it goes into the water, its point of saturation is reached when the sodium and the hydroxyl of the water combine and the chlorine and the hydrogen combine. When that saturation point is reached for a specific temperature, Then there's increase in volume if you add more salt and try to supersaturate it and do all kinds of stuff. But the salt actually dissociates and becomes minced in or just perfectly blended in. In fact,
I think we can say though that we're not at saturation point.
No, and even if you were, the water remains translucent and clear. You can optically see through it. It's just.
Anyway, we're losing the point here. The point is that if there's a force of gravity, we've got to show that an object resulting from the gravity is interacting with the gravity.
There's none. These forces are vector forces or whatever, pressures that are all contained within the cylinder that you're working with in the case of the egg.
Arwin, can you see this last line here?
Arwin's gone, I think. Is that you, Mike?
Yeah, it's me. Good day, guys.
Hello.
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 You're not going to come on and tell us that gravity's a thing, are you?
No. I didn't actually hear the conversation. I just came in and. What are you guys talking about? Gravity?
Well, before we do,
all I want to conclude by
I know
saying
we were
is that
talking about
forces-
gravity, but Mike was a massive contributor to Anthony Riley's GoFundMe campaign. So massive shout out to Mike as he's on the panel, and to everybody who contributed to Anthony's campaign. So he's now hit his total. Shout out to Joe's Live for the super chat. But yeah, thank you to everybody who contributed to Anthony's GoFundMe. He's now reached his aim. So well done, everybody.
So, Mike, can I just ask you a question for the benefit of Sean Huffroad? Was it Mike Kavanagh that donated, or was it Mike Kavanagh FE Core that donated? Because I'm not quite sure Sean will get it. Everybody else will get it, but Sean probably won't.
It was my personal donation.
Do you know, I thought it might have been a little bit ambiguous, and it might have been FE Core because it was you.
No. If it was FE Core, then it would be listed as FE Core. But it's
Do you know, everybody else in the whole entire world understands that one apart from Sean.
Well,
It's pretty
gotta love him.
straightforward.
Audio guy.
Sean is a dumbass, but that's okay.
He's a dumbass.
But I think at the last count there was 58 people that had supported your campaign in various amounts. Mike's being the largest, it has to be noted. So again, kudos to you, Mike, for such a massive chunk of support. But it means that there's lots of people who are well aware of what's now going on with this campaign and will be behind Anthony and looking at what he's doing. And they'll also get a note in the actual document itself. Should it be published, your name will get mentioned, which is great. But ultimately speaking, there's now supporters of this campaign, not just financially, although obviously some people are very generous, including Mike, who's on the panel. So another thank you.
Well, I promised that I would put in $500 before we started the campaign, and as I'm a man of my word, I paid him $500. So
62 people in 7 days. And it's gone 45 squared over the requested amount.
That's
so
awesome,
that's just going
man.
to help towards fuel.
Very cool. Very cool.
Very.
It seems like a lot of people want to say, like the rednecks say, they want to see, get her done.
I'm on it. That's why I'm looking
pretty
into
quick
this.
to get that goal, man. It means a lot of people want.
That's why I'm really looking into this distance to the sun thing, because it's quite actually interesting. It's not as straightforward as what I thought it was. It was either science said it was, science said it wasn't. Well, it wasn't really that. It was more the case of like everybody didn't really know and couldn't agree. And then one bloke from JPL came across and said, and his name was Bob, and he said, yeah, that's definitely it. And then everybody jumped on board and said, yep, it is, because Bob said so from JPL, which is quite interesting. Because it's not really how science really should work. So consensus is not particularly credible, right? It's supposed to be a cause and effect relationship, but we'll not go there just yet.
My buddy said so, science.
Yeah, that's what it is. My buddy said so, right?
Peer review. And with that, I'm going to say, first and foremost, a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of the debating panel for making this debate possible. And of course, a massive thank you to all of the live audience for tuning in and hopefully sharing this debate. If you hated the show, then you know exactly what to do. I've probably done it already. But if you like the show, maybe consider sharing it with a friend or subscribing if you've not done so already. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
seems.
He don't like me at all because, you know,
Yeah.
I try to slow things down and say, look, let's define density, you know, properly there and use it a bit differently. It's important. It really is, you know, this
From
volumetric
what
math.
I've heard from the discussion, I came in about 20 minutes ago and I listened to about 1 minute before I had to go somewhere else. And from what from what I've heard, you know, Arwen is really unprofessional in debating because his responses are, you know, squeaky high voice, and that means you're either insecure or triggered.
Yeah.
And he's giving, you know, you should respect somebody's opinion, even if it completely opposes yours, and he doesn't do that.
Well, I try to, you know, and this is how I see it. If no one's been able to define this, quote, gravity in 500 years, show it, prove it, manifest it, do whatever, this imposter of science, this character, this clown, and he's going to do it by deduction, like Sherlock Holmes. Clever deduction, my dear Watson. We have gravity now. Oh, really? You know, deduce this, deduce that. Science isn't about deduction. In a sense, it is. You can deduce this and that, but then again, at some point, you have to prove things experimentally with, you know, fixed constants, variables, and do.
The thing is, though, Arwen's publicly, I say publicly, he's done it like to other people, but not with me. He's admitted that he argues it in a state of defiance because he doesn't want to concede to me. He's literally admitted it is personal. He just argues for the sake of arguing.
Or anyone, yes, or anyone. Like the gravity is his holy shrine, almost. His, you know, just like R is for the globe. Gravity,
it's
that
as if
same
it's
false
soundly in his
fallacy is
pontchartrain
this
stuff.
one he's holding on to.
Well, you know, I'm also a little bit, let's say,
Pro gravity.
Religious about gravity, and that's mainly because I've done my engineering training, and within engineering, you know, gravity is used all the time.
Okay, but not in electricity, is it? Or
No.
magnetism for the most part? No, that's two big important science blocks where we don't use gravity in chemistry. I've never used it in the lab. I've never said I'm going to mix A and B, but let me calculate gravity first.
There are countless examples of
invented examples. They're added as fiction. They really are.
Gravity being applied, but you know.
Okay. Now again, we've been taught a lot of things. Now let me go one step. England and England anyway, and North America. Guess what? You put your key in your car and you turn, and something happens, and you get to roll down the road, right? In both those countries, something's wrong. You know what's wrong? The British cars are wired from positive to negative in a positive hole theory. In North America, cars are wired with the negative to positive theory, a current flow from the negative terminal to the ground positive. Exact opposites, total opposite theories, and usually only one can be right. Well, in this instance, there's also a third option. They're both actually wrong. They're just functional. They have a story
what did you just say about cars
that
being
links
wired?
into other stories. See, we don't know there's such a thing as an electron. We invented that word.
What did you just say about the way cars are wired in America?
Our electrical current and circuit boards and stuff, we teach a theory of, like in a battery, there's a negative terminal and a positive, that the current flows from the negative to the positive. But in Britain, for cars and batteries and wiring, the theory is a theory called the positive hole theory, where from the positive terminal, it creates a series of holes to the negative terminal, and that electrons actually sort of plays hopscotch from the positive terminal to the negative. So instead of the current flowing from the negative to the positive, which we teach here in North America and wire cars with that theory, in England, they teach the positive hole theory and wire cars with the positive hole. They wire from positive to ground, negative. Here we wire from negative to ground positive.
I know that we can get a car battery and get it deep discharged so that it's completely flat. And then if you charge it with the reverse polarity, you can get your negative to be a positive.
One of these lead acid batteries.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, look at their construction. You'll see that, it's not advisable probably, but yeah, I suppose you could. They're just metal plates with surrounded by acid. There's an interchange with the lead and the sulfate, and it creates, well, the current.
Yeah, yeah.
Sacrifices some water to make a bit of gas. So most batteries you wind up having to top off. Some you don't. Some have a way of running with the electrolyte that sort of recycles itself. The technology's improved because, lead acid batteries function, but they had a lot of room for improvement, weight and whatever. But
so back to gravity for a minute. Mike, what's your current position on gravity? Is it not what they tell us? Complete fiction? Something else?
Well, it's not what they tell us, but it is a thing, in my opinion. Can I prove it? No. But
when you say it is a thing, do you mean it's like a force of attraction?
You could call it that way. Yes.
We may not have gone there. I may not have gone there with you, but like in the example of the microphone and Mr. Tyson, isn't he holding back energy and just when he opens his fingers, releasing the potential that while he and his friend gave that mic? A body at rest stays at rest till a force acts upon it.
Correct.
The force was those two clowns. Look, you've seen that vacuum chamber with the bowling ball and the feathers. Regardless of the vacuum, that bowling ball, unless gravity pinned it to the ceiling girder there with the feathers, it had some help. And we're ignoring how that energy got stored on that beam to a quick release hydraulic or whatever. It's a string and a pin. But someone went up on a scissor lift, attached a 15-pound bowling ball there and feathers, and then came down and moved out of the scene. See, that bowling ball, it didn't say, here I am on the ceiling, now gravity's pulling down on me. It was just waiting for me. Oh, bad gravity. Unless gravity put it up there, because equal and opposite reactions, that ball had an assist, human hands. And again, a body at rest stays at rest. Both the ball and the, feathers would have stayed on a shop floor for 20 years if no one touched them. So a body at rest stays at rest. If we're seeing bowling balls falling, you got to ask some questions like who, what, where, when, why. Why is the bowling ball falling? Who put it there? Where did it get its energy to get there?
Let me ask this question, serious question, right? If you pick up the microphone and then you drop it, an object stays at rest until an equal and opposite force, right? Well, if you have a helium balloon and it's on the underside of a shelf, so it's trying to go up, but it can't go up because there's a shelf in the way. How's that any different to an object that's now being stopped by the ground when it's been dropped?
Well, imagine you put a little jeweler's scale stuck underneath the shelf, and then you put a couple of balloons. They'll exert force on the scale and say that, well, that weighs 7 grams, 10 grams, whatever. And that's upward.
Yeah, so what I'm saying is if there's a downward acceleration force, the way that we're told, then how would that be explained with the helium balloon? Because that would then be an upwards acceleration force, and the exact opposite, and we know it's caused by buoyancy, right?
Yeah.
So why would the antithesis not be caused by density?
I know. I just know that when they drop that stupid slinky, the bottom don't move till the upper portion has come down to a certain point, and then it just starts moving. I mean, when you watch that film of the slinky, I don't know if everyone's seen it, but it's almost hallucinogenic. Where's gravity?
I've got that.
Gravity's supposed to pull equally on all sides of a body, all parts of a body. You let go of that slinky, the whole thing should start accelerating downward. Even if you stuff a tennis ball in the front lower part of the slinky and add more weight, it still stays suspended in midair, doesn't drop a millimeter until a certain point is reached. That tells me there's no upward flat earth society thing there, accelerating upward, obviously. But it also says there's no downward pull. It's just a dead weight system. You know, a body at rest is a body at rest. It's just some dead weight, a mass.
Is that egg in the water like an anti-gravity machine, then, kind of thing?
No, it's just got that equal force from the water pushing on it on all sides.
I think it's like Owen's nemesis, that egg in water.
Well, if it was a bladder again tied to a string and you pulled it down to immerse it, the volume changes on the bladder.
Ouch.
The water will resist climbing the walls of the cylinder to compensate. Much different situation.
What do you think of the tides and like all the oceans moving?
I don't think it's the sun or the moon. I think it's, you know, there's just too much area for it to be, you know, so
Yeah, it's
equally
massive, isn't it?
affected by everything, and, you know, to have that nicely distributed tides worldwide. It just, it's not moon lock or lip lock. It's just, it's not coming from the moon, certainly, this tidal oscillations and stuff. It's an oscillatory cycle.
It's definitely not.
It's timed.
Something done by the moon. That's
Do you know how expensive that sulfur hexafluoride gas is? Just
Sorry?
a 2 kilogram cylinder, right? That's not that big. 400 quid.
Wow.
That's really expensive. It's like, why is it so expensive?
Well, any fluoride is pretty dangerous. I wouldn't want to accidentally breathe any of it. In fact, you know, I have a kind of taboo. I don't like seeing fluoride on anything in a lab. Honestly, if you can avoid it 99.99% of the times, even having it in the lab, anything with fluoride, for the most part. In a lab, it's most times no fucking use for it. It's garbage. It's just got no use.
Now, to touch back on the gravity thing, and there are, what I was saying, there are countless of examples of it being applied mathematically, and that's just it, mathematically. But, you know, we've also been testing with inertial measurement units on airplanes, for example. And these things are fitted with a gravity sensor, even.
Are they actually sensing gravity? You can call something that, but I mean...
That's what I was thinking about, you know.
Yeah.
If we cannot even define gravity as it is, how can there be a sensor in it that is actually detecting it?
They have a device, they call it a gravity clock or gravity light. And basically it's like a pulley wheel system with springs, but a counterweight system too. You pull this weight and it goes up in the air, and as it comes down, it powers your light. It's not gravity. You gave it the energy, but they call it the gravity light. And it really has nothing to do with gravity. It's a type of brainwashing.
Yeah, but the IMU,
the apple in the tree, it grew there. It grew there. The potential energy came from sunlight, water, and nutrient in the tree. It's falling is because of where it was, not because of gravity. It grew and it stored potential energy above the ground.
Yeah, the gravity sensor in an IMU is basically just a weight. You know,
Well, mass, because again, please, I hate to be a stickle for detail. Weight is a variable. Mass is not. So it's a mass indicator. If it's a weight indicator, it's a nonsense piece of garbage.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!